It might be a stretch, but I assume that I am correct in thinking that for all water represents, as a young child, I was taught the importance of water, especially since I learned that across the globe were people that didn't have enough of it, if at all, although some don't realize it. For them, water is simply there, ready to quench their thirst, to satisfy their needs, to keep their body functional. Primarily due to these points, I view water as life, the common lifeblood for all. It's disorienting to think about it now, since now whenever I think of water, I think of death, along with lies, so many lies. One could think that moving almost 14 states around from the safety and comfort of their hometown to go to college might cause doubts, cause hesitation. I could say that was no expectation. However, looking at the scene in front of me, I knew I made the right choice. I was looking at what I assumed was a stock image of a college campus, floating through the page. Eager students coming from the first morning classes. Dull green vines, lazy crept up on the sides of the weathered buildings, with the autumn breeze scattering the leaves, with a pristine, well-kept lawn. Looking around, I was filled with sudden surge of excitement, of belonging, as if the universe was telling me something. I made the right choice, I felt. Filled with this new sense of excitement, I realized I should probably start to find my way around campus, starting where the natatorium was. Ever since I was young, I loved swimming in the water. I loved how free and loose it felt, how aware my body was when I was in it. As I got older, I started to do it more competitively. I got good enough that I managed to use it to subside some costs of my tuition. My parents didn't really get the concept of being on a sports scholarship and often told their friends that their son was a professional athlete. But at the time, I was only 14 states away, and I have got tired of correcting them. Looking at my watch, I was a bit early to practice, but I had nowhere to better to be. And since I had scheduled my classes for late afternoon, I figured I might as well start to know my way around. After a while of walking around, I finally managed to locate the natatorium. I stepped inside, fully expecting my body to relax, as the warm air enveloped me and the familiar smell of chlorine hit my senses. But curiously, it didn't. Instead, as soon as I walked in, my body tensed. A cold wash of dread settled over me, just as my arms broke out in goosebumps. Even though the air was hot and stuffy inside the building, my heart quickly raced, apparently for no reason. I tried to get my mind and body under control. There's literally nothing to be worried about. Just find the right room and you'll be fine, I told myself. And my words slightly relaxed me. Just as I started to walk down the hallway, however, I heard a high, cold giggle erupt from around the corner of the other end of the hallway. The giggle echoed, bounced off the walls, and made me wince. I stopped dead in my tracks. My heartbeat started to climb. Hello, I said. I called my own voice pinging off the walls. No response. Could just be someone weird's ringtone, I tried to reason, saying anything to myself to get myself to calm the hell down. In case it wasn't someone's ringtone, however, I watched enough horror movies to know that you don't investigate strange sounds alone. Keeping this in mind, I started to walk again, avoiding the other end of the hallway. I started to walk down the hallway, looking at the door numbers to find where my practice was being held, past the absurd number of coach's office, before I stopped upon seeing it, room 334. I was still a solid 20 minutes early, and since I didn't see another soul in this building, upon entering, I nearly had a heart attack as the door suddenly swung open in front of me. I jumped back, my heart beat so loud I could hear it thumping in my head. I watched as a tall, dark-haired figure came through the doorway, fumbling with a backpack. The figure looked up, and upon seeing me in a shocked state, had a good nature to look sheepish. It was a guy who looked around my age, with messy dark brown hair that was damp, like he had just gotten out of the pool, and messily toweled off. He had pressing dark blue eyes, and drinking him, and my heart started racing again, and not from the shock of someone else being in the building. Hey, sorry if I startled you. I didn't think anyone was here, he said as the door swung closed. I swallowed, trying to make my brain generate full sentences. It's fine. I didn't think anyone else was here either, I had said, giving off a small laugh at the end of the sentence, and said nervously. The boy looked relieved that I was fine and broke into a smile. Are you on the team? He asked, shifting his bag to the other side of his shoulder and looking at the room he came out of. I glanced past him at the shimmering pool in the other room before letting my gaze slide back to him. I am. Are you? I asked, each moment impressing, slowing my heartbeat back to normal. The boy shook his head, not quite good enough for that, but I do enjoy coming here in my free time and just hanging out," he said, his small smile lingering on his face for long enough for me to see the indents of his dimples. I swallowed, feeling more at ease, but unable to shake the pushing feeling of dread that I had since coming into this building. I opened my mouth to speak, but the boy's voice cut across the silence first. "Well, I won't keep you much longer, but if you'll be coming here regularly, I just would tell you," the boy started, but shifted his eyes away. I raised one eyebrow, now careless. "Tell me what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even, trying to will the boy's eyes back to mine. The boy cleared his throat, finally returning his eyes back to mine. "Just want to tell you that this pool, well, this room, you can't go in between 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. the boy said, shifting his book back to the other side again, as if he desperately wanted to be talking about anything else. This odd rule wasn't on the athletic page or anywhere else. Well, I thought he was just messing with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't. I didn't even know if the building was open that late, but I didn't press further. "Well, if I get any urges for a late night swim, I'll try my best to suppress them," I replied, trying to put on a small smile to elevate some of the tension. To my relief, the boy broke into a relaxed smile, apparently relieved that I didn't question any further. "Awesome. Okay. Well, I won't keep you any longer," the boy said, making a move as if to walk around me, stopping himself. "Oh, I didn't think. What was your name?" he asked, taking a half step towards me. I swallowed. "I'm Brandon," I said, feeling more confident. Then I felt extending a hand. The boy's mouth twisted into a smile, reaching out and taking it, triggering a sudden burst of warmth as he did. "Pleasure to meet you, Brandon. I'm Avery." As the months passed by, I settled into the new routine in my new home, away from home. Even though the swimming season had not started yet, I still had daily practice, and I was getting better about shaking off the heavy plague of unease every time I stepped into the building. I managed to make friends with a few people from anomaly classes, were able to show me where the best coffee and pizza places were, clearly a necessity. There were Lewis, whose only real personality trait was the ability to shoot his mouth off and prank people, although he was fun to be around in his own way. He had even his stupid YouTube channel where he let his followers decide his pranks, which he tried not to support too much. Then there were Jennifer and Christopher, who were actually twins and shared the love for bad horror movies with me. I also saw Avery around frequently, around campus, at the pool. We often coordinated to swim together before I had practice. Whether it was me giving him tips on technique or us just messing around, I found myself greatly enjoying his company. It was strange because even though I hadn't known him that long, I felt I had known him my whole life. Eventually, we progressed beyond just hanging out at the pool and often got coffee together before class and saw an occasional movie. Away from my parents, I let myself notice the little things about him. The way his mouth twisted to the side when he was deciding to laugh about something, the full display of his dimples when he did, or the way he tapped lightly against the surface when he was thinking. Some might have found it annoying, but I actually found myself enjoying it when he tapped. It was often slow and methodical and had sort of a rhythm and pattern, was quite relaxing. That being said, college life was tough, but being around Avery and a new group of friends, life was perfect. Life was without an issue. This being said, I should have known it couldn't have lasted long. It was Friday night, and I was working on a report for my anomaly class when my phone began to lit up next to me. I leaned back, picked it up, silently hoping it was Avery, even though I knew he was probably asleep. To my last disappointment and surprise, I saw that it was Lewis. Curious, I answered the phone, checking the time. The clock read 11:57. I have no idea what Lewis wanted from me this late, but I need a break from report anyway. "Hello," I answered, holding the phone to my ear. "Brandon, hey, sorry to be calling this late, but can you do me a favor?" Lewis asked. His voice sounded like it was surprising laughter. I guess. What do you need?" I asked, leaning back in my chair, running my hand over my face. "I left my watch at the pool, watching your practice, and I don't know my way around the building. Can you get it for me?" he asked, and I rolled my eyes. "This can't wait until the morning," I replied, trying to keep my tone even. I could imagine him shaking his head over the phone as he replied, although something was nagging me as he spoke. "Lewis watched my practice today. I have breakfast with my dad in the morning, and I don't have it. He'll flip out. Can you please just get it? I can't come pick it up in the morning," he said, and I sighed. Usually I would have suspected him of trying to lure me into some prank, but he sounded sincere. I mentally groaned. I chalked it up to not seeing him at the practice to forgetfulness. I mean, I guess it's just your silver one, right? I asked, standing from my desk. Yep, that's the one. Thanks a million, Brandon. You're a lifesaver, Lewis said as he abruptly hung up. Dick, I thought to myself as I pocketed my phone and grabbed my keys, not bothering to change out of my sweatpants and t-shirt that I was going to bed to wear. Walking outside, the air was cold, but not cold enough to wear a jacket. As I made my way across campus, surprised that many people were still out this late, I checked my phone to see what time it was, 12:02 a.m. Seeing what time it was, something stirred in the back of my mind before I placed it. When I made Avery told me to not go into the pool between 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. by myself. I'll be fast, it probably not even unlocked, I told myself. The giggle that I heard when I first entered the building that day hadn't happened again. And besides the disorienting amount of dread I got for no apparent reason, I didn't see any reason why I couldn't just pop in for a moment. Approaching the building, I tried the handle, surprised to see it was open, since I was sure all buildings got locked at 10 p.m. At this point, I didn't really care about the coincidence or the odd things. I wanted to get the watch and get out. Entering the building, I expected to be hit with the same wave of nervous dread, seemingly coming from thin air, although something was different this time. Instead of a cold wave, the alarming feeling slowly came, creeping under my skin as if crawling and slowly trying to plague my body, poisoning my mind. Rational thought, just get over with it, I said to myself, stepping inside and picking up the pace as I half ran to room 334. The quietness of the building made the air thick and heavy, my every footstep seeming loud enough to be broadcast the entire building. I turned on the flashlight on my phone so I could see the numbers on the door since it was dark, even though I already knew my way around. Knowing I looked like a cliche horror movie character as I made my way through the hallway. Finally managing to locate the practice room, I turned off the flashlight as I reached for the handle, since the moonlight was streaming through the windows inside the room would provide me with enough light. Just as my hand touched the handle, however, I heard a sound coming from the other end of the hall, one I haven't heard in a long time. A cold, high-pitched, childish giggle, followed by a bone-chilling high voice. Curious killed the cat. F this, I said to myself, yanking open the door, running inside, desperate trying to get the watch and then get the hell out. Something I didn't know at the time was that as soon as I stepped foot in the room, a tall, dark-haired boy somewhere awoke with a start, clenching his chest and knowing something was horrible going to happen. As soon as I ran into the room, I heard the door slam behind me, so loud and abruptly that I almost fell over, turning around to see what closed the door as my heartbeat shot through the roof. Just as I heard the click of a lock, Louis' face suddenly popped up in the window, grinning, holding my phone. Brandon just got pranked. Sorry, Brandon, the followers decided. This door will be unlocked in the morning. Sweet dreams, he shouted to me through the window, giving me a small wave before disappearing from view. I sprinted towards the door, overwhelmed with fury. You asshole, let me out. Let me out. This isn't funny, I yelled, rattling the door. Louis, I yelled, looking through the small window in the door, but Louis was long gone. I slapped the door in anger, absolutely fuming. Then I fell to a ridiculous prank of his. Very quickly, I panicked, started to replace anger, terrified at spending another couple hours with dread crawling over my skin like spiders. I cursed under my breath, looking around the room, running a hand over my face, trying to figure out my next move, and finding a way out of here. Something caught my eye. In one of the swimming lanes, something silver shiny glared off the bottom of the pool. Did that a-hole actually drop his watch while sitting this up? I walked over, ready to take his precious watch, if that's what it was, and smash it into bits. Standing at the edge of the pool, I couldn't quite make out what it was. Crouching down, I got on my hands and knees, bringing my face closer to the surface of the water, close enough that my breath was creating small ripples that I spread across the rest of the pool. I could see my own reflection, my dirty blonde hair looking wild in ripples, and the rest of my face looking. See it, it was a watch. I was about to get up and get something to pull it out, but then it started to move. The watch seemed to be getting larger, twisting and making its shape I didn't recognize. Confusion clouded my thought, since I couldn't think of any rational way of I was doing that, but my body didn't move. Stayed glued to the edge of the pool, curious to see what happened. It was then that I finally realized what the shape was. It was a bright white, maniacal smile. My heart stalled. In the second it took my brain to try to process what was going on, a black disoriented substance quickly covered and started to come out of nowhere, creating something, a figure. Something shot out of the water, black and thin, grabbing in front of my shirt, yanking me into the pool so fast I didn't have any time to react except for my involuntary yelp of surprise. I went in with a loud splash as the water rushed up my nose and stung my eyes. Panic seized every inch of my body as if a red alarm went off in my head. I kicked my legs out frantically, thrashing around violently, trying to get out of whatever had me, whatever held me, but it was no use. The chlorine stung my eyes as whatever held me started to drag me down. Bubbles escaped my mouth as I tried to yell, more out of panic than thinking that anyone would hear me. It was then I realized that I was being dragged far beneath the depths of the pool. Just as I thought I was about to run out of the air, I collided with something hard and solid, something that wasn't in the water. I gasped, coughing, sputtering as I tried to scramble to my feet, the water dripping off me as I did so. My brain raced, trying to make sense of what just happened as I looked around trying to figure out where the hell I was before I realized I was in the hallway, but not any hallway, one filled with nothing but yellow doors, one with one bright red door at the end. My mind spun as I tried to make sense of this. Was this still Lewis' prank? Was there an underground part of the school? Nothing made sense, and it felt as if nothing would make sense ever again. That being said, I did what anyone else would do. I started opening doors. I cannot speak for most people, but I can say absolutely certainty the experience of feeling, of a very unnerved feeling, truly troubled one. For the most cases, people experiencing this feeling had mild confusion to surround themselves, simply not being able to think on their normal level of clarity. For others, being in this feeling means that you're in a complete different altered mental state than usually in. In this state, people feel that they are more comfortable to put their body on autopilot, not one to have to think. During this period, the brain absorbs information like a sponge, sucking up all surroundings, interactions, and so forth. Isn't it until later that the full impact of what they absorb hits people, shoving them out the blissful state of altered consciousness? Like with so many things in life, I was with no expectation. Stepping closer towards one of the doors, I looked in, studying, running my fingers lightly over the surface of the vibrant, glossy yellow wood. A small part of me was aware that this was definitely not a part of Lewis' prank. I reached for the doorknob, only hesitant for a moment, an odd feeling of bliss attempting to drown me out of my screams for answers. Besides, one of these doors had to be some kind of exit. I twisted the handle and pushed the door open. I wasn't sure that I was expecting anything, but it definitely was not what I could even imagine. It was what appeared to be pitch black room, but looking into made me feel as if the walls extended forever. It was all black, except for what looked like people standing in the middle. I sighed with relief. Real people. Maybe they can help me. What the hell is happening? I thought to myself. I moved into the room, shuddering as a sudden chill swept across my body. As I took a step forward, however, I hesitated. Again, it appeared that I was walking on water. I shook my head. I had too many questions to be concerned about, more things that literally defied the laws of physics. I let my brain take over as I ran into my room. And anyway, my first steps making small splashes as I ran towards the people. As I got closer to them, however, my heart stopped in my chest. It appeared to be a pair of scientists with white lab coats, talking about something in low voices. As I stood over a pair of beds, I ran faster, getting close until I stopped, and not by choice. It felt as the invisible hands were pushing me back gently, a few yards away from the people standing over by the beds. I struggled for a moment before finally realizing I couldn't move any further. "Hey," I yelled at the people, but they didn't respond, as if they couldn't hear me. "Hey," I yelled louder, cupping my hands around my mouth, but they still didn't respond. Getting frustrated, I started to move, and I found that I could circle around them as long as I kept my distance. Keeping this in mind, I moved, trying to see what they was looking at on the beds. I couldn't see much, but from that I could tell appeared two boys, blonde and a brunette. Couldn't see their face due to the weird mask covering both, but it looked like they were in the hospital or something, since there were a number of various machines connected to them with different tools reading their vitals along with stuff I didn't even recognize. I turned my attention back to the two scientists. They were both older men with stark white hair and beards, clad with lab coats, only had black letters, Beta, on them, an organization I strained to hear what they were saying, but I only could catch parts. "We didn't see," the man said. "The boy continues to try," I heard one of them say, and the others shook their head violently. "Doesn't matter what protects him, as long as he doesn't pull," the other replied. As I was getting incredibly frustrated that I could only hear parts of what they were saying, I pressed up against the invisible barrier trying to get a better hearing. And in a different simulation, the boy continues to protect him, but in becoming aware of what's happening, we need to find out how he getting this awareness, the other said. The other shrugged. "Run it, simulation E again." We had clear reports on his neural cortex in the house he was at the time, the other said, making a note of the piece of paper. "I don't even understand what they're saying." "Do you think it's one of the most lost O's?" he stated before the other cut him off. "No," he said harshly. I backed away, frustrated and confused. I had no clue what they were talking about, and I didn't care anymore. The only thing that bothered me was the fact that the simulation E, was it weirdly resonating with me? I backed away further, turning around, back to the door I came out of. I slammed it behind me as I entered the hallway. My autopilot decision was starting to catch up with me as a flurry of emotions clouded my mind. I had absolutely no idea what was happening, but I needed to get out of here. I started opening doors desperately, thinking that one of them had to be the exit, or even better, I would wake up after dozing off at my computer and realizing this whole thing was just a twisted nightmare. I went from door to door, peering in, checking in, see if it was a way out. All of the yellow doors led to the same dark room like the scientists, but with different people and objects. Some of the rooms had baseball fields, nothing but a river, or in one case, a creepy old house. After I tried the yellow doors, I realized that there was only one left that I hadn't tried to open yet. Swallowing, I started to make my way towards the red door at the end. "Don't overthink it. Just open and check," I told myself, trying to swallow hammer heartbeat, trying to go quickly before I could talk to myself out of it. I reached for the doorknob, quickly turning it and pushing it open. As I touched the handle, I got a sudden flash of pictures, going too fast for me to see clearly before a word pressed into my mind. "Death." I shook my head, the images fading away as I looked into the room. Immediately, I noticed it wasn't like the other rooms. It appeared to be a children's room, with toys, books littered across the floor. I stepped inside the room, noticing that there was a child sitting at the table coloring. It was a boy who couldn't have been more than 10 years old. Looking around, my heart skipped as I saw pictures on the wall. They were all the same drawings of a black figure with no face and a white smile, the one that pulled me into the pool. I quickly looked at the boy. He had messy brown hair and a thin frame as he was scrambling with a black crayon on a piece of paper. It wasn't sure if I could get any closer to him to look like the other rooms, but it was worth trying. As I started to approach the boy, he looked up at me, showing me a set of pressing blue eyes. He started to fixate on me. I swallowed. There was something oddly familiar about those eyes. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to think. People in rooms I understood, but children? It didn't seem like an absurd situation. And the boy didn't seem like he was in need of rescuing. Just as I was about to speak, the boy spoke quietly. "You're not supposed to be here," the boy said softly, every inch of his body gone completely still, his words sending another crash of cold down my body. His voice was slightly squeaky, but had an odd moment of measurement, consideration, and sparked a sudden connection in my mind. I knew where I recognized those eyes. I closed my own, gearing up to ask a question, one that I desperately wanted to know if it was true or not. Gathering my confidence, I opened my mouth to speak. Never wanted to be more wrong in my life. "What's your name?" I asked softly, my breath starting to shallow. The boy raised his eyebrows as if it was obvious. "My name is Avery." I closed my eyes tightly, praying to whatever higher power there was to let me wake up from this nightmare. So many things just weren't possible, just were not possible, that I didn't know how this was happening. The boy wasn't done talking. "I'm Avery and you're Theo," the boy said, still staring at me. I furrowed my eyebrows. Who the hell was Theo? I shook my head. "No, my name is Brandon," I said, trying to keep my voice even. The boy simply shrugged. "If that's the name they gave you this time," he said, finally breaking eye contact and going back to his drawing, as if he just said the most natural thing in the world. I didn't have time to think about what he said. "I need to get out." "How do you get out of here?" I asked, taking a step closer. The boy looked up at me again, but just for a moment. "We have to come get you," he replied. I furrowed my eyebrows again. "We?" I asked, although I was just sure already knew the answer. The boy nodded. "Big Avery. He has to come get you," he said, still scrambling on his paper, before pushing and looking up at me. We really love you, he said, looking at me for the moment, continuing his drawing. I blushed a deep crimson. The boy continued before I could respond. And you love us too. That's why I know that you wouldn't pull the plug, he said, not pushing a pause to look up at me. The plug, I asked, stepping closer to the boy. He nodded, opening his mouth as if he was responding before pausing, closing his eyes for a moment. Big Avery is here. I think you have to go now. I looked around, but Avery wasn't anywhere. Instead, however, the room was starting to fill with thick black smoke. Wait, what? What's the plug? What do I have to pull it? I asked, quickly trying to get the answer before the room is filled with completely smoke. I tried to wave away the impending smoke from my vision, but it was no use. The boy shook his head unfazed. You have to pull it, Theo. You have to save us, he said as the smoke filled the space around us. Despite my hands trying to wave it away, the black started to cloud my vision. But before I was thrust fully into darkness, I heard the boy speak one last time. You have to save us all. I wish I could say that I remember what happened next, that I remember how I got out of the God-forsaken place, but I can't. As the walls closed in around me, the boy, and the only thing I remember next was a rushing feeling of being pulled upward, of letting the darkness surround me. The only thing I remember was that I tipped into the darkness. I could hear someone calling a name, Theo. Suddenly I felt myself collide with something hard, coughing, sputtering, as part of my mind realized I was soaking wet. I gasped for air, water dripping off of me onto the concrete floor, the same one I gotten pulled off of just earlier. I was back. Before I could process this, hands were grabbing me, sending me up as my body shook with exhaustion. Letting my eyes travel up towards the hands, I saw that they were connected to a tail, a dark-haired figure whose eyes swept me, no doubt checking to see if I was injured. The figure was soaking wet just as I was, clearly from jumping into the pool and fishing me out. The only one person who would do something like that, it was Avery. In the moment, my disoriented state had just came crashing on my head. Everything I had just seen, just heard, just experienced rushed back as my body shook with the weight of it all. Avery didn't miss this. He wasn't going to ask for an explanation now. Instead, he pulled me towards him, wrapping his arms around me, pressing me against his chest. As soon as I felt the weight of his arms around me, I let everything out. Dry sobs racked my body as I pressed my face against Avery's chest, letting him hold me, letting him kiss the top of my head, letting him tell me everything was going to be okay when I knew it wasn't. It felt as if I would break into 1,000 pieces if not Avery around me, holding me together, keeping me whole. It felt as if my heart was made of glass, my mind made of stone, my heart fragile, my head heavy with information, heavy with confusion. I don't remember how long we sat there like that on the floor, but I remember Avery never let me go. Sitting there like that, so tightly pressed together, it would have been okay, or even mostly okay, if it was us had let go of the other. If he wouldn't stayed there holding each other long after the dark had passed. My boyfriend, I don't like to talk about what happened 5 years ago, but I can't pretend that it didn't have lasting effects on me. I only take quick showers now, never baths, as well as trying to stay away from the major bodies of water. Constantly terrified of seeing the white maniacal smile swimming was obviously out of the picture. After what happened that night, I got answers, but not enough. I thought back to what I heard in the room with the boy and the scientist. He's trying to protect me, even now. I thought often as I lay beside him at night, my head on his chest, hearing the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, often being the only reason I was able to drift off to sleep. I still had questions, so many questions, content with it being unanswered. I saw what it took out of Avery when I tried to get him to talk about it. I tried not to think about it. I tried to move on with my life, which had greatly improved since making Avery a permanent fixture in it. I didn't think much of what because of the memories, but that wasn't the only reason. After all, I didn't want to become the curious cat. Brandon, Ethan, Theodore, Aiden.
Subscribe and please like. Thanks for tuning in and listening.